Today we're going to work on writing equations of lines based on particular information that's given to us. I'm going to skip point slope form for a moment and go to slope intercept form. That's the form that you know, y equals mx plus b. If you know the slope and you know the y-intercept, or it's fairly easy to figure out the slope and the y-intercept, you can write the equation in slope-intercept form. You can also, if you have it written in point slope form, you can convert it into slope-intercept form fairly easily. So let's look at number one. Write an equation of the line that has the given slope and y-intercept. If you are given the slope and the y-intercept, you absolutely should use slope-intercept form. So y equals, help me out, 3x minus 6. Point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. There's a few things that you need to be aware of with point slope form. First of all, the point that you use is x1, y1. So you're going to put numbers in those spaces. And then m is your slope. Let's go to the next page. On the top of the next page, I want you to again write down y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. No. In example 2, they want us to write an equation of the line that passes through the given points. They want us to write our final answer in slope-intercept form. So they want our final answer to look like y equals mx plus b. But we're going to do a little bit of a process to get there. So the first thing that you might notice, what do we not have in number 2? We've got points. We don't have the slope. So your first step is going to be to find your slope. So take a moment and find the slope between these 2 points. Step 2 is going to be to use that slope. Did you all get a slope of 1? Yep. Use the slope and one of the points. Take a look at the 2 points that we have available to us. Which point would you choose to use? I'm going to use 3, 4. I like to choose the point that is positive numbers. I like to avoid negatives. I like to avoid big numbers. If you can avoid negatives and make your life a little bit easier, go for it. I like to call that strategic laziness. You're strategically doing the least amount of work possible. So you're going to hear me talk about strategic laziness all the time. It's not okay to be lazy in math unless you're being strategically lazy. So use this in our point slope formula. And I'm going to take a moment and label with some colors where things are going to go to help us out. So y minus the y value of our point 4 equals m, that's our slope, times x minus the x value of our point. Once you have your equation in point slope form, then let's do this final part. Write your answer in slope-intercept form. To change this into slope-intercept form, we basically need to distribute the slope and then get y by itself. So our last step is going to be to write it in slope-intercept form. And we do that by distributing your slope. So 1x minus 3. It's okay to put the 1 in front of the x. However, you don't need it. So if you don't put that 1, it's fine. and then add 4 to both sides to get y by itself. Y equals 1x, or just x, plus 1. Here's the cool thing about this. If you had used the point -2, -1, and put those numbers into point slope form, when you distributed the slope and added to get the y by itself, you would still end up with y equals 1x plus 1. It does not matter which point you use. All right, let's try this again with number 3. First thing we need to do is find our slope. So take a moment and find your slope. Once you get a slope of -2, this one's kind of nice. You really can pick either point, 1,6 or 3,2. I'm going to pick 1,6 simply because those numbers are different from the -2 of the slope. If you use 3,2, you should still end up with the same answer. Your point slope form will look different, but your slope-intercept form will look the same. So mine is going to be y minus 6 equals -2 times x minus 1. If you use the other point, it would be y minus 2 equals -2 times x minus 3. Either of these are correct for point slope. You don't need both of them, you just need one of them. Slope-intercept form. Distribute your -2. I'm going to do the one on the top. So y minus 6 equals -2x plus 2. If you had done this one, you would get the same thing either way. Has anyone looked at number 4 yet? Okay. Take a moment and find the slope of number 4. There's something a little bit interesting about number 4 that we need to talk about. Seven divided by 0. What is that for a slope? Undefined. If you said 0, I know why you're thinking that, but just remember, whenever you see a 0, check it in your calculator. If your calculator tells you the answer is 0, the answer is 0. If your calculator gives you an error, that means it's undefined. What type of line has an undefined slope? Vertical. This is VUX. Undefined is a vertical line. And the equation for a vertical line is x equals. Take a look at your 2 points. What must x equal? 5. So if they ask you for point slope form, you would write x equals 5. If they asked you for slope-intercept form, you would write x equals 5. The only equation we have for this line is x equals 5, so it would work for whatever answer they asked you for. This assignment is a slightly different format than what you're used to. This is called a bullseye. So every single problem, there are 6 total problems on this page. Every single problem is going to use the point 5, 2 that you see in the very center of the bullseye. So each wedge is a problem of this assignment. So straight up from the wedge up to the top, you'd use the point 5, 2 and the point 2/3, 2, and you would find all of these things. Now we're going to change this a little bit because we did not do standard form. So in the outer ring, I would like you to write the slope. So this is the outer ring. This is where you're going to write the slope. So in this particular wedge, you would find the slope between those 2 points and write that in this outer ring. Number 2, we are going to do point slope form. So the middle ring, your equation will look something like y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. But you'll want to actually do that with the slope that you find and the points that you're given. And then for number 3, I want you to write the equation in slope-intercept form. Just like we did in our notes, find the slope, do point slope form, and then finally convert it so that it looks like y equals mx plus b. Okay, now some of these, like this wedge here on the right and this wedge down here on the left, it already gives you the slope. So basically your outer ring part is done. You would just write -1/2 in the outer ring or -2/5 in the outer ring. And you have less to do on those two problems. Write it in point slope form, write it in slope intercept form, put those on the other two rings. Give me a thumbs up if you understand the directions for this assignment now. Okay.